everyone. Good morning. We're here for the session, Stress and Self-Care. When we are at our best, we can give our best. And we have 5 speakers here. 3 of them are lead speakers and we have 2 panelists. So we'll start with the session. I request the speakers to introduce their topic, introduce themselves and start.
We'll start. Okay. I've just realised I'm wearing 2 badges. One of my roomies, I've obviously got an identity crisis happening. I don't know who I am. Okay, I'm Maggie from Australia. I was prepared to speak on how to toss your boss and have work-life integration and take an hour to do it. And so now we're down to about 15 minutes. And isn't that what life's about? We need to learn to be flexible, roll with the punches, and just do what we need to do. So what I'm going to do is talk about something. I actually presented on this in London, and so I'm just going to do a quarter of my presentation, which is stress is a choice. In fact, I was watching a video this morning from one of the gurus, and he said he couldn't understand why people talked about stress management when he went to the West. He said, we should only manage the things that are precious to us, like our family, and like money, and like our career, and our life purpose. So why would we manage stress? And I thought that was really rather funny. Okay, so a little bit about me. I was very stressed in my teens, in my sort of early 20s, stressed according to the definition, the Western definition. I came from a family where my father was a workaholic. He was a Church of England minister, and we never saw him. And the last thing that I ever wanted to do was to become a workaholic. But by the time I was doing university, I knew from very early in life what I wanted to be. I wanted to be an actress. And that was my sole purpose, you know. But as parents spoke to me, as teachers spoke to me, as I took on board other people's opinions, when it came to going to high school, I actually was told by one of my teachers that I was an idiot. So I decided to live up to her expectations, and it was a great excuse to get out of work. But by the time it came to matriculation, I got not 1, but 2 scholarships to university, and I don't know who was more shocked, my parents or me. So university to me was going to be Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London, where Dr. Harbin went to, or something like that. But then my dad said, look, Margaret, why don't you do your drama course at university? You've got scholarships that are going to pay you all the way through. You're going to have stability of the job and superannuation. Fantastic. And I was always so busy trying to impress my father that I sold my soul. And I went and did my drama degree. And that's where my stress and my workaholism kicked in, even though I was determined not to be like him. And by the time it came to third year university, I was doing full-time university and had 4 other jobs on top. I'd get my sleep on the floor in his office in between lectures, and I was a very toxic mix of way too much alcohol and lots and lots of stress hormones. And that's why I say stress is a choice, because there is actually no stress out there. There's pressures. But what might actually stress me may actually motivate Bhavini. It comes down to a choice of how we react. And so I learnt, 20 years ago, I was very blessed to study with Dr. Deepak Chopra. And I learnt meditation with him. I became his first meditation teacher in the Pacific Rim. And that's when I learnt a lot from him, because his first degree was as an endocrinologist, that stress is about your physiology. And the wonderful thing about it is that in our bodies, so we have, I was going to use the board here, and maybe I can very quickly. So let me see if I can hold the microphone in this hand and write with this one. So, very interesting that we have an event happening. Oops, we pulled the board. Sorry, darling. So we have an event over here, all right? An event. Can you see that there? You can't really, can you? All right, so let me speak it, and then as the board comes around, thank you, we'll work with it. So, thank you. So, here's an event happening. A person, place, or thing. And then we have a choice of reaction to that event. Right? So, we can either choose to get angry or upset or excited or whatever, but the fact of the matter is, the reaction that we have is our choice. You know, people say, oh, he hurt me, or she did this, or whatever. No. Everything is our choice of reaction. So we have a choice of reaction. Here we have an interesting hormone in our body. It's called a precursor, pregnenolone. Now, pregnenolone is a very, very interesting hormone, precursor. It means a before hormone. Because pregnenolone is the precursor for cortisol, which is a stress hormone. This is a hormone that sends you grey before your time. Trust me, this is all out of a bottle. So, the irony of it is that DHEA, which is the youth hormone, also comes from the same precursor. So you can either stress yourself out, age yourself faster than you need to be aging, or you can actually start reversing your body age, depending on your reaction to the event. Isn't that so simple? And when I got that from Deepak, I went, oh, wow. And then I started to really get into the science of things. So, we need to change our perception of events. We need to take responsibility for our reactions to events, people, places, and things. And because that's what decides whether we'll make the pregnenolone into cortisol or DHEA. And the irony of it is that we have three types of aging. We have our chronological age. I'm 61, 62 in June. We have our biological age, which is biological age, cellular age, metabolic age, it doesn't matter what you call it, it's all the same thing. So, that's a very different kind of age. Last time I had mine tested, which was about 6 months ago, my biological age was 48. That's the age we need to be concerned with. The age of our cells. And we need to be working proactively to reverse that age. People say, you can't change your age. You've got a date that you were born. Yes, you can. I mean, you can go get a false passport, but, you know, you can't change your age on your passport. That's your chronological age, but you can change your biological age, and that's the important one. And we also got our psychological age. Mine varies on whether I'm with my children or not. When I'm with my children, I'm usually in my 60s. No, I'm kidding. But when I'm not, I'm like a 5-year-old. I think Mae West said it best. She said, you're as old as the man you feel. So it's up to us how what we like. Now, the interesting thing is, I've now done some work. Where's my book? I can show you later. I've been working with a company called HeartMath in America. And it's very interesting because with our choice of reaction, it's amazing how quickly we can get into anger, or we can get into frustration, or irritation, or something. You know, can be like that in seconds, particularly if we're in the traffic, like in the daily traffic, which I was in last night. Very interesting. So, if we get into this immediate sort of anger, frustration, the heart is really, really, really important. And the heart has got 40,000 of its own neurons. It's actually got its own brain. It's super, super intelligent. This is the seat of your intuition. This is far more intelligent than your brain will ever be. It's this that gets you into trouble. Your heart knows the truth. So if we get into anger and a frustration or reaction, we have a reaction like this. And that's our heart rate variability, it's called. And that gets very, very jagged and incoherent. And when it's like this, that's what blocks your intuition. That's what blocks your creative thinking. That's what gets you to, that's where smart people do stupid things. if we do something as simple as in a moment where we could react and get angry and frustrated and just put our focus on our heart, breathe as if we're breathing through our heart, and do it for 30 seconds, you will find that your heart rate starts to go, your heart rate variability starts to become coherent. This is where your true intelligence really, really kicks in, when you have coherence. And they've done studies that show that when someone has 5 minutes of anger, there's a hormone in your body called IgA. And that's to do with your immunity. If you get angry, 5 minutes of anger, your IgA goes through the roof and it stays there for up to 6 hours. No wonder we're suppressing our immune systems, because we're not choosing how to react. We need to take much more responsibility for, you see, when people say things about us and things like this, we need to get out of our ego. We need to get out of our self-centered bubbles. We need to get out of thinking that someone else is even thinking about us. When someone says something rude about us, it's telling us more about them than it is about us. So respect your mind, respect your wonderful God-given body with all its talents. Choose to look after it. The body is the temple of the Spirit. Thank you so much. Who's next?
Good morning. My name is Michele. I'm from the United States, and I'm a life coach and a holistic healthcare practitioner, massage therapist. I'm a teacher. I taught massage therapy for a couple of years, and I was a science major. So it's a little bit weird, at least in my country, to be working in a holistic industry where we talk about energy and we talk about, just receiving the energy and moving from your heart, and then you have the people that oh, that's just all woo-woo stuff out there that doesn't mean anything. But actually in college I was a science major, and I love that science is now catching up and it's actually showing. I love hard math. And I don't know about statistics in any other countries, but one of the statistics that we have in the United States is that 90% of everything people go to the doctor for is stress-related. 90% of everything that we go to the doctor for is stress-related. And most of that stress comes from here, so that right there means it's preventable. If you can keep yourself out of stress and make choice, we can avoid most of that. And then when we do go to the doctor, they give us medication that creates other types of stress in the body and creates more disease. So, speaking to a bunch of women, and I have a man in the room too. Okay, so when I refer to all women, I'm actually referring to all people. Okay. We tend to feel, especially as women, a lot of responsibility. We're very busy. We have careers, we have families, we have children. In different cultures, there are other responsibilities that we feel. And so we're busy. And we feel that all of this is on our shoulders to handle, to manage. And that's wonderful. And I don't think there's anybody in this room or at this conference that doesn't have a dream of helping to change the world, to improve the world. We have these huge dreams, and so we're feeling that responsibility of sharing our gifts to improve the world and to change things for everyone. So having all of that responsibility is wonderful and it's fabulous. But the real responsibility at that point becomes taking care of yourself first. We have all of these priorities of family and children and career, but if we are not our own first priority in our self-care, everything else will suffer. And so when we're truly feeling that responsibility, our first responsibility really should be to put ourselves at the top of that priority list. And one of the ways, there are many, many ways of good self-care, taking the time. But one of the ways that I teach people in my business is to listen to their body and to listen to their heart. We get so stuck in this mindset of, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to feed my family, I have to go to work, I have to pay my bills. And then when you have 5 minutes where you don't have to do something, you have a whole list of shoulds. I should study for that, I should manage that, I should plan for that. When this is full of I have to and I should, it creates stress. But if you can move from I get to and I want to, there's no stress involved. It becomes a motivation. It becomes part of your self-care when you're moving from your heart. And I think that, I know that everyone has an internal messenger. We all have this dream. We all have this idea, this feeling, this passion that is trying to bubble up out of us. And that is what will nourish you at your highest and make you in your highest mindset and in your best health, which is where we need to be to actually do our best when we're trying to give our gifts to our family and to our careers. So putting yourself first and following those passions. Now, I don't know about other cultures. This is, by the way, my first time ever outside of the United States. It's also my first time ever speaking to more than a group of about 10 people, and I knew all of them. They were all my friends. So, but I have this passion. I have to be here. When my friend said, I'm going to get emotional. When my friend said, I'm going to India to speak at this women's conference, I said, I have to go. And then I spent the last 6 months with this, trying to talk me out of it, to tell me how I couldn't do that, and I shouldn't do that, and it's so expensive, but I knew I had to. And this is what I'm talking about, is listening here to the thing that your soul is telling you you have to do. And even if it's just, I have to go out into nature. One of the things that we get hung up on is, we think our passion has to make money. We think our passion has to become a career. But your passion is really just to your best benefit. And if it's, I have to go and walk beside the water, I have to go and sit beside the ocean, whatever it is, whatever this is telling you that you have to do that's going to nourish you, will give you the motivation to go to the job that maybe you don't exactly enjoy and not be stressed about it. Not create all of these stress chemicals that are going to break down your health and put you in a grouchy mood where you're not serving your family to the best, to the best of your ability, where you're not serving your career to the best of your ability. But when you put yourself first, and if your passion, if your heart is telling you what you need to do is go create a career, fabulous, do that. That's kind of what I'm working on right here. But it doesn't matter, as long as you are first. I have to pay my bills. Yeah, but if you're sick because you're stressed and you have all of this dragging you down energetically and physically and emotionally, you're not going to make as much money. I have to take care of this relationship. Well, maybe not. Maybe you need to let go of that relationship because it doesn't serve you. It doesn't feed your soul. And when you let go of this stressful thing, let go of the thing that feels heavy and move toward the thing that feels light, even though you don't know what's next, the universe is going to provide whatever is next. You step into the first thing, and everything else shows up. I've spent a lot of my life living most of my life living in I should do and I have to, because I was too afraid. Because I plan, I make lists. I'm a science major. I want to know the proof. I want to know every little step between here and there. But an inspired life doesn't work like that. A happy life and a healthy physiology and a stress-free life doesn't work knowing every step. You're never going to know that. But I know this step. I literally had an anxiety attack pushing the button on the computer to buy my plane ticket. That was huge. But after that happened, the next step showed up. And I had less of an anxiety attack over pushing that button. And I had a little bit less anxiety about getting on the airplane. I'm just moving toward the thing that my heart tells me that I have to do, because this is feeding me. And I showed up here really having no idea what I was going to say, because planning all of that out ahead of time was me trying to say the right thing to you, to impress you, to make sure that you liked me. And that shifted until an hour ago. I kept having these thoughts of, well, I have to say this so that they'll like me, so that I'll be impressive, so that I look like I know what I'm talking about. And that you would have recognized the inauthenticity of that. So my goal for myself, and honestly the most stress-free way that I have figured out to move through life, is to just take this step. I don't need to know what the rest of my life is going to look like, or even what the rest of my day is going to look like. And it takes 90% of the stress out of my world. I listen here, and I do the thing that my soul tells me that I have to do, because this feeds me, and it raises my vibration, and I serve the world better that way. I will make better changes. I will have better relationships. We will make more money if we are constantly listening and moving from our hearts instead of our heads. All of this should do and have to. Grass doesn't grow on a busy street, is what I tell people. So when this is busy, trying to plan out every single step between here and there, there's no space in here for creative idea. So if we move from should do and have to get to and want to, the universe will support us in that. It will show you the next step, and it will move you into a future that has more opportunities, more money, better relationships. I always say that the universe has way better ideas than I have. So if I just start moving forward, all of the things that support that will show up. And it's a healthier place to be. It's a happier place to be. And I think ultimately I serve my community, my family, and my world better from that place by putting myself first, by making myself that first priority and taking care of myself first. I really, really, really appreciate all of you being here. This has been an amazing experience. And who's next? Is your next speaker, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm sorry being late because earlier session went on and on, back-to-back sessions, and apologies for being late. And when we are at our best, we can give our best. There is no dispute on this, we all agree on that. So, and also, stress and self-care. Yes, if you don't take care of ourselves, what results is the stress. The first self-care we can start with the basics, fundamentals is to be healthy. If we are not healthy, we are always under stress. Life becomes a burden. It becomes a burden. Even to sit quietly here becomes tiring. And what do we do for that to be healthy? Again, basics. We are ultimately what we eat, what we do, and what we think. Again, basics, right food, at the right time, in right quantities and avoiding the wrong type of food. This is the absolute basic minimum to be healthy. And most of our illnesses is because of our wrong habits. Physical health alone is not enough. What about our mind? That again is the right type of food, right type of thoughts, right type of company we keep. We are with negative people, we get afflicted by negativity. The right type of books we read, the magazines, the programs we watch, all that have an influence on us. It's like we want a good mango plant, mango fruit. I put high quality seed. Choose the seed, plant it, water it, look after it for some time. After some time you get delicious fruits. So the thought is like a seed. Every thought. So powerful. Thoughts are the most powerful thing. A man like Mahatma Gandhi quoted freedom for India against the British Empire without shedding a drop of blood. And he believed in non-violence, truth, because of the one thought. At the same time, wrong thought, mind of person like Hitler. So what a catastrophe to the whole world. Is all ultimately the power of the thought, the seed. So we should always be careful in choosing the right thought, right seed, allow it to grow. But can you see all the time we'll be thinking only right thoughts? It doesn't happen in life. Even the most virtuous saints cannot say they never had any negative thoughts. By nature, not because of us, our upbringing, the company we keep, the people in the society in which we move, you have influenced by all sorts of thoughts. But then again, we can cultivate our mind to think of the right thoughts only. It's a process. It's a thought analysis, you can say. When a thought arises, we have the capacity to observe it. We can observe the thought when it appears by our training. Is that thought good for me? Good for me now? Is it good for me in the long run? Is it going to, by encouraging that thought, am I causing any damage to hurt to anybody else or to the environment? So here, the thought gives me pleasure. Is it a pleasure for the time being, or is it going to be happiness, joy in the long run? Even then, if it's going to cause harm to anybody else, we reject those thoughts. So by this long process of thought analysis, observing our thoughts, the mind gets trained to encourage only good thoughts. That's how we get the mental health is concerned. Ultimately, it goes into the spiritual health and all that. To do it. So what I would say is, our health is in our hands. No blame game. Not even blame on ourselves. You can't blame ourselves also. Because then you develop a guilty feeling that causes stress. Okay, we have a good thought we enjoy. We're causing hurt to the family members, others. That again causes stress. So if you want to have a stress-free life, you can't manage that, as beautifully said by earlier speakers. It's not a question of managing stress, avoiding the stress. It's not something to be managed. We can have a stress-free life if we are careful from the very beginning. And it's possible at any stage in life. You have seen worst criminals becoming saintly persons. Every tradition has history of such people. Dacoits, people who have been coming murderers, becoming monsters, saints, they have written books and all that. So at any stage in life, it's always possible for us to do it, that thought analysis. Why are we under stress? Not because the husband, wife, or child, or parent, or colleague, senior, junior, no. We have to take responsibility for ourselves ultimately. And ladies and gentlemen, there is no way we can control everything around us. The world will be the way it is, in spite of all our efforts. But the only thing on which we have control is ourselves. People will behave the way they want. Events will take place. You can't have control, your own husband, wife, children, all that. Not a logic. But certainly we can have control on our reaction to events, our response to events, responding ability to respond to situations around us, people around us, and all that. So if we have complete control on our thoughts, our reaction, then we have capacity to influence others also. When people see us, but calm, quiet, equanimity is there, then people start wondering. Then even people who are trying to hurt us will also realize something or the other, they will change and stuff or quarreling with them. So what I am only submitting is that we are masters of our own destiny. It is we who make our life hell or heaven. Ultimately, if we think of it, we have no control on anybody else. But we can control how to develop by self-analysis, prayers, meditation of any system, not any particular religion and all that. All religions have this technology. The great master saints have given the technology. Observe. There's a way of doing it, observing your breath or going within. So I think I would like to only conclude. I think the greatest scientist of the last century is Newton. He said, I spent all my life in exploring the world outside. Towards the end of my life, I regret that I had not spent some time to go into my inner world, to listen to my inner voice. But fortunately, here, all of them here in the Women Economic Forum, I find most of the people are spiritually inclined also. So that way, we will not have regrets like the great scientist Newton had. We are already exposed to these humans. So let us spend a little more time on ourselves. In silence or solitude or prayers or meditation, whatever works for us telling, let us gain control on ourselves, our thoughts, our inner word, inner voice. That's why there is a great saying in India, we are that. We are that means what we are seeing. What you are seeing in the outer world is inside us. We can't control outside world. By transforming our inner world, at least in our perception, the outer world becomes more pleasant, stress-free. We can go on with our life peacefully. And as we all know today, 99%, some people say 80%, 90% of our illnesses, diseases are psychosomatic. It starts with our mind, thoughts. That is negativity, anger, ego, jealousy. These are all the things which cause some of the chronic diseases like, they don't know the cause otherwise. Even cancer is attributed to being angry all the time, egoistic, hating people. When we hate somebody or show anger to somebody else, it's like, I want to hurt someone. I treat somebody as an enemy. And to hurt that person, we take burning coal, throw at that person. The burning coal or fire may or may not hit the target. But when I pick it up, it's already burnt me. So when we have negative thoughts, whether the consequence is that person gets affected or not, we have already hurt ourselves there. This is all, scientists will explain what happens. So the thing is, create good thoughts, noble thoughts, create innocence, learn to forgive. Forgiveness is the most important quality. Because people will say, according to their own upbringing, sometimes misunderstanding, hurt us. But if you don't forgive, we are causing a lot of damage to ourselves. It's not easy to. Forgiving is easier. Forgetting is more important. So we must, any wrong done to us, real or imaginary, the first way to learn to forgive and forget, telling that anybody can do it. In ignorance, they might be doing it. We are not doing a favor to them, we are doing a favor to ourselves. We are learning to forgive and forget. Cultivating good thoughts, we are helping ourselves. Where is the question of stress? So that is the essence quality of self-care, health of the body, mind and spirit. Emotion is very, very important today. We are talking about IQ, physical health and all these things. EQ and SQ become very important now. Emotional quotient and spiritual quotient becomes important. Not to do any favor to us, to lead a life of peace, harmony, and to lead a stressful life. There is no other method, it's all in our hands. That's why I conclude again telling, it is no blame game. To make my life healthy or sick, heaven or hell, it depends on each one of us. There is no question of stress coming up. There is no question of managing stress. Stress will not arise. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? Great. My name is Felicia Phillips. I am a marketing communications professional and a licensed minister in the United States. And this morning I want to talk to you briefly in following the topic that we just heard from on self-care and stress. Stress and self-care. So I am a panelist. I won't be before you long, so I'm going to jump right in, all right? But I would like some feedback, and I would like you to participate. And I do want to acknowledge our young people that are here today. It's such a blessing to see our young ladies here. Can we just give a hand clap for our young ladies? I am a youth minister, and so I'm used to talking to young people. And so I was just so blessed when I saw all the young ladies come in, and also for them to come in for this particular topic. Because a lot of us, particularly women, we get advanced in age, in our careers, in our lives, and we don't know how to deal with stress. And we don't know or understand self-care. So it's such a blessing to see the young ladies here today to learn about stress and how to deal with stress, how to manage it, or as we've already heard, that we shouldn't be managing it because stress is not something that we really want to hold on to. So again, I applaud the young ladies and those that were responsible for bringing them out this morning. So very quickly, what I am going to talk about are some of the causes of stress. Then I'm going to talk about some of the stress factors that we can eliminate. And then I'm going to share some of the things that I do to deal with stress. Is that all right? Yes. Okay, I need some audience participation though first. So when we talk about causes of stress, I know I'm not the only person up here that experiences stress. So just yell out some things that stress you out. My young people, my seasoned people, tell me some of the things that stress you out. Go. Work. Work stresses us out. Business stresses you out. Right. Anything else? Family, relationships. Any of my young people, does school stress you out? Getting good grades? Does that stress you out? Right. Relationships. So we know that there are a number of things that stress us out. And I do want to give you a little bit of a disclaimer that I forgot to talk about at the very beginning. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a medical doctor. So I'm not going to get into all of that lingo. But guess what I am? I'm a woman. And that says enough. That means that I'm an expert on dealing with stress and on managing stress. All right? So I'm talking to you from my own personal experience. So we talked about causes of stress, work, family, relationships, commitments, our activities. Guess what? There's some factors, some things that cause stress that can be eliminated. You believe that? There's some things that we are allowing to burden us down, to weigh us down, and there's no reason because they can be eliminated. So what are those causes or what are those factors that can be eliminated? I'm a mother. So I have two children. I have an 18-year-old who's away. Actually, she just finished her first year in college. She came home today. I'm missing her right now. I can't wait to get home from India and see my daughter. And I have a 13-year-old. So that's two teenagers. That's stressful. And guess what? I can't eliminate those stress factors, right? We can't get rid of our children, but what can we do? We can manage how we interact with our children. We can manage our discussion, our conversations. And you know what else we can do? We can ask for help. You know, there are other women that have 18-year-olds. There are other women that have children that went away to college. There are other women who are dealing with teenagers. So what can I do when my teenager is stressing me out? I can call on those women. I can call on them and seek their wisdom. I can find out, how did you deal with your daughter wanting to go on dates? Or how did you deal with your daughter wanting to wear mascara and lipstick and she's only in the 7th grade? Or how do you deal with a child who's not doing well in school? We can ask for help. We can't eliminate our children, but we can ask for help. Anybody married? Any married? All right. I don't want you to eliminate your husband either. Okay? So your husband, your relationship may be a source of stress. I don't want you to eliminate that, but I want you to find ways to work with your husband, to talk to your husband. Some of us, we try to be super women, and I have to give a shout out to the super women in India, because yesterday we traveled to the Taj Mahal, and you know what I saw? On the road to the Taj Mahal, I saw a super woman. I saw a woman on the back of a motorcycle holding a child in 100-degree heat. And guess what she was doing as she was riding down the highway on the back of a motorcycle holding her child? She was nursing because her baby needed to eat. And I said, oh my goodness, when you look at this woman, she's nursing. Now perhaps that's common in India. It is not common in America to ride motorcycles and nurse at the same time. We do a lot. But shout out to all the wonderful mothers and the wonderful wives. We cannot eliminate our spouses, but we can manage our relationship. We can open our mouths and we can talk and say, you know, this is bothering me. I don't like it when you do this. This makes me feel a certain way, and so I'm asking that you would stop doing that. There are ways that you can manage your relationship, right? There are ways that you can manage. I was about to say amen. I'm a minister. So I'm used to amen after the end of my points. But there are ways that we can manage the stress in our relationships. And sometimes it's simply talking and speaking up. Open your mouth. Your spouse may not know that what he's saying is bothering you. Your spouse may not know that what he's doing is troubling you. Your spouse may not know that you need help. Because on the exterior, you look like you're handling business. On the exterior, you're doing everything, right? You're doing everything, and you're doing it so well that he may not know that inside you're broken and inside you need help. So, if you want to manage your relationships and the stress in your relationships, can't eliminate your husband, but you can certainly talk through that. All right? Then there are other things that you can eliminate. There may be some toxic relationships in your life. There may be some toxic friendships in your life. You may have a toxic job or a toxic work environment. And you may not be able to quit your job immediately, but you may be able to move on to a different assignment. You may be able to talk to HR about how to handle what's going on in your work environment. You may be able to just take a step back and evaluate where you are and make a decision about the field that you're in or the place where you're working so that you can manage your stress. All right? In my last few minutes, what I want to talk about are some of the things that I do personally. Again, I am not a medical professional, I'm not a therapist, I am not a counselor. But here are a couple of things that I do to manage my stress and to take care of myself. All right? Now, there are some fun things that I do, like going to get my hair done, going to get my nails done, going to get my toes done. As soon as I get back home, I'm going to go and get a 90-minute hot stone massage. And those things feel great. But there's some other things that we need to do to manage our stress. One, take time to just be silent. Now, a lot of us here are talkers, we're speakers, so that's hard to just sit and be still. But take some time to be still, be with yourself. If you're spiritual, it may be meditation. It may be prayer. For me, it's prayer. So I'm going to be still, and I'm just going to allow God to speak to me and to minister to me. But take time to just be. Amidst the busyness of your life and work and your obligations, take time to just be still. The next thing is ask for help. I've already talked about that. But ask for help. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Asking for help is a sign of strength. It says, I acknowledge that I can't do this on my own, and so I'm going to be strong enough to solicit help. I'm going to look for the experts. I'm going to look for those who have more experience than me. I'm going to look for that can pour into me at this moment because that's what I need. The next thing that I would suggest you do is find 1 or 2 people that can support you. I have friends, I'm all the way in India, but guess what? They're getting text messages. They've been getting text messages all week long. You know, I'm nervous, I'm going to speak tomorrow. Or this food isn't agreeing with me, oh my goodness, this is crazy, or whatever. I'm talking to my friends. We're texting, we're talking, and they're there to help me, to encourage me, to support me, to push me to move forward. Next, commit to caring for yourself. Love yourself enough to care for yourself. That means eating the right foods, that means exercising, and that means getting proper rest. Some people back at home say sleep is for losers or something like that, and they brag about how much they work and how they don't get any sleep. But guess what? That is a key reason for stress, not getting enough rest. So yes, we want to, power forward. We want to do so many things and accomplish so much, but you have to give your body downtime. You have to rest. You have to take care of yourself. Last 2 things, join a support group. I am a caretaker for both of my parents, and that's new, and actually the reason that I jumped on this topic, because I've certainly seen a whole lot of stress with this new phase in my life. My father is 70 years old, and he suffers from Parkinson's. My mother is 68 years old and suffers from diabetes, high cholesterol, she has seizures, hypertension, and a host of other chronic illnesses, and she's in stage 3 kidney disease. Stressful, and I still work full-time and do a number of other things. But what I've done is I've joined support groups so that I can talk to other people that are caring for other people. People that can encourage me. People that have been where I've been. People that can say, you know what, I was in your same place, but this is what I did. And I'm still standing, and you can get through it because I got through it too. So find a support group. It could be online. It could be at your church, your mosque, your synagogue, wherever. Get the support that you need. And lastly, and this honestly should have been first, because it's sometimes taboo, particularly in the United States. If you need professional help, if you need to see a therapist, again, I said I am not a therapist, but if you need to speak to a therapist, then I encourage you to get the help that you need. In the United States, you can often get free assistance through the Employee Assistance Program at your job. And oftentimes that allows you to connect with a therapist and take a couple of free sessions before you have to begin paying. So sometimes therapy can be expensive, I do understand that, but if you have the money or you have the insurance and you're able to do it, invest in yourself. Again, that is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength, that you realize that you can't do this on your own, that you need help, and that you're going to get what you need so that you can be healthy and you can be whole and you can take care of yourself so that you can be the very best person that you can be. That is all that I have for you this afternoon or this morning. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your attention. I'll be in the back if you have any questions. I would love for you to give me some feedback on the presentation. If you're willing to join me for that at the close of the session, please see me in the back. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Let's give another ovation to that wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. And it doesn't get better than that. I think that more or less speaks the presentations in this particular session, and now it's our opportunity to ask the various questions that we probably have. My name is Angelina Dawa. I am a medical doctor in Kenyatta National Hospital, which is a national hospital in Nairobi, Kenya. I had a short presentation about the stress that I experience as I work as an accident and emergency doctor and how I manage that. I also tailored my presentation to depict some of the decisions that I make as I went through my life as a physician and as a person. But that, I think, now is not necessary. What we need now is more or less digest the information that we've already shared and see whether we can get some of our comments heard or some of our questions answered. So we are going to go right ahead into the discussion. If you've got any questions that you probably want to ask the panelists, we have had a lot of information shared, right from panelist back. The first presenter informed us that stress is a decision that we make. And depending on how we react to that stress, we can either grow younger or we can have our life filled with stress hormones that really gets us off the course. The second presenter chose to just share her journey And she explained that she just wanted to be here, real and authentic with you, so that we can more or less learn together. The third presenter is from the corporate world, and he too gave us some hints on what we can do in order to manage the stress in our lives. And here I am as a medical doctor. I'm also willing and able to answer any questions that you might have in that regard. So let's hear the questions. Now it's your turn. We've got just a few minutes. Let's do that. Any questions? No questions. Then I can take the opportunity. Yes.
I'm asking these questions to Mr. Kaarthikeyan. You mentioned about forgiving and forgetting. I think it's easier said than done. As you said, forgiving is easier, but forgetting is difficult. How does one do that?
We can take a couple of the questions as the panelists prepare so that they can come back and respond. Yes. So we've had that question. You want to respond already?
Yes, forgetting is very difficult. But there's no choice. So once we know that just forgiving means, that the only instance. For the moment you say, I forgive you. But that is hurting you deep within. It keeps hurting. It may be some innermost portion out of your thought process. So that's a very difficult thing, but that can be done only by constant practice. I said that, because if it's something is going to harm me, I must get rid of it, get over it. We can philosophize stating that, people do commit mistakes. We can't say, I never committed a mistake. I can never say, I may not have done a murder, but I cannot say I have not uttered any bad words sometimes. I may have got some wrong ideas, ill will towards somebody, my thought at least, So everybody is capable of doing a mistake. It's human to err, actually, but it's divine to forgive and forget it also. I can also commit a mistake someday because of misunderstanding. It can be miscommunication. Because they might have heard something from somebody else that I have done wrong thing. See, it's only that we are infallible. We are human beings. We are not perfect. I am not perfect, so the other person is also not be perfect. You have to accept, because unless you forgive and forget, you don't give a chance to the other person to change. Here we are not destroying anybody. We want transformation. If I keep that, that bitterness in my heart, I may talk to you sweetly, but the power of that emotion is there, that vibrations. It's the reality. They are measuring it today. I may talk to you, I love you, you are so wonderful and all that. Suppose deep within my heart I have something negative about you and all that. It hurts that person. It hurts me more because, as I told you, out of selfishness I must cure myself. To cure myself, I have to forgive. And forget it also, otherwise I am going to be sick anytime I am vulnerable. It is not easy, but it's possible and it has to be done. There is no choice. If you are aware of that, by constant practice of creating goodwill, okay, I want that person to change. Give them positive thoughts. Tell him. This has an impact. It's all proved scientifically. I'm not talking about superstition, philosophy and spirituality. It's proved. My thoughts are so powerful. When I wish you something, how can I wish you well if I have not forgotten that the wrong done to me? It's possible, difficult, but it's possible. Constant practice. In our own interest, we have to do it. Thank you.
So basically, whether we want the person to change or not, it's for our own interest and for our own health and for our own selves.
Yes.
Our own selfish interest.
Yes.
Yes.
Our own interest. I'm not doing a favor to the other person.
Yes.
I'm doing a favor to myself.
Yes.
Yes.
In the process, I'm doing a favor to everybody.
Yes.
So you need to be a little selfish.
You need to be
You need to be a little selfish.
selfish. Think of your own self. That
Think
is
of your
No,
own self.
harming you in some way.
it's,
or other.
In a positive manner. You need
See,
to be
it
a little
is-
selfish.
self-interest but also interest of the world, you know.
Yeah.
So much of negativity, bitterness grows around. It affects everybody. It's not, you know, I don't know whether you, 2 glasses of water, you keep, you know, there's an experiment, you know, demonstrated everywhere now. You can bless the water. You can bless the water. Scientifically, Kirlian photography and all that they have shown. Suppose you curse, they say you see the molecules forming in a very horrible manner. The blessed water they have seen scientifically, kept photographed, beautiful forms comes. The thoughts are so powerful. So when I say, I wish you, that's why you know best wishes. When you go to the masters, when you go to a church, mosque, whatever it is, you get the vibrations and the blessings of the people. They are powerful. Thoughts are most powerful, the vibrations are most powerful than the material that you are giving us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Questions later on that can present and then we take questions.
Okay. I thought it was important that we give the participants an opportunity to ask a burning question. Now I'll just take a couple of minutes to walk with you through the slides I had prepared. Now, the topic of my presentation was the person of the physician. And why did I decide on this topic? Because last year in the World Economic Forum, I had shared the experiences that I had from reading a book called The Alchemist. Any of you have received that book? Read that book? Ah, okay, very good. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. And from the discussions, we had some learnings that came out that would certainly help us live our lives. Those learnings were mainly about relationships, number one. And we did hear from the last presenter saying that relationships are a major cause of stress to us. So that book did show us that relationships are about being and not necessarily doing. This book, just in summary for those who haven't read it, is about the journey of a young boy who makes some decisions about what it is he wants to do in life and walks through the desert to seek his purpose. Finally goes back and discovered that he didn't need to have walked through that journey. But the life is all about the journey and not necessarily about the destination. So that's the second point about the learnings that we got from that book. Now, the second reason why I thought it was important for us to talk about the person of the physician is that the field of medicine is changing. Oh yes, this is true. It's changing in terms of the diseases that we encounter. It's no longer about infections, which are easy to diagnose and to treat. It's mainly about chronic, complex diseases, often that are very difficult to diagnose and equally difficult to treat, needing the patients to participate with the doctor in dealing with the condition that the patient presents with. The other thing about the changing sphere in the medical world is that patients are also changing. We no longer are in a situation where you go into the clinic room and you expect the doctor to have all the information. We recognize that patients have access to information and sometimes they may even know more about their condition than you do. And even more important, we realize that it's the patient who knows if she's in pain or if he's in pain, where it pains more, and what are the things that he or she does to alleviate that pain. And as doctors, we are recognizing that it's extremely important to hear that out from the patient. The third thing about the changing field of medicine is that now we have emerging evidence that who we are is just not the biology, that we are muscles and bones and blood, but we are also about energy, which we do not see. It does not manifest itself physically. We are also about vibrations. We can be influenced by our thoughts. We certainly adhere to what we say, and that can manifest in our lives in form of various diseases. So these three things indicate to me that the field of medicine is changing. And because of that, a physician, such as myself, who works in the accident emergency department, or even who stays in the clinic and waits for patients to come, really must change the way we interact. Yes, it's a lot to do with what we have learned from school, which is the physician. The physician must be knowledgeable and must have the skills that the physician needs in order to deal with illnesses. But also, the physician is about the person. What are the journeys that this physician has gone through? What are the experiences? What is the awareness of this physician in terms of the impact of the interaction with you and him, or with you and her? So self-awareness is critical for any physician who wants to make an impact in dealing with the situation that patients face. Second slide, please. So I thought I would share with you a little bit about my journey in the making of me as a physician. Right from childhood, there were embers that more or less indicated to me that I might be interested in the medical profession. And it started very simply with just things like I was attracted to the uniform that nurses wear. I loved the starched white dresses, and during my time they also used to wear a little hat that was lacy or had some ribbons. As a young girl, and I can see here a number of young girls, I was fascinated by this. I found it very attractive. My parents also happened to have been people who used to wear uniform. Both my parents were prison wardens, and I was also very interested in a gentleman who happened to work in the Air Force then. So some of these things influenced my decision to get into the medical world. An important aspect of the reason why I ended up doing medicine is that I had read certain books. I love reading, and Trufena, the city nurse, is an old one. Anna, the air hostess, is another one. Movies such as The Sound of Music, and movies about an officer and a gentleman. Basic things, probably doesn't have any obvious relation to being me as a doctor, but they pointed me towards that. As I grew older, I had opportunities to line up, to clarify, to focus, and motivate me towards one direction or another. And there are things that influence us, our teachers, the kind of activities that we participate in terms of drama, the various career talks. All these impact on us to make decisions that will determine the kind of profession we lead, but also the kind of person we become. During my path, I had opportunities and threats that eventually led me to be who I am today. And the rest is history. Next slide, please. What about the making of me as a person? I had significant milestones in childhood, in school life, in university, etc., like all of us do. But these milestones had certain deviations. Professionally, even after becoming a doctor, I deviated from doing clinical work to doing more program-oriented work. I had deviations in terms of my religion. I had deviations in terms of me as a personal in the family, and we had various family drama, including experiencing violence in the home. I experienced certain addictions in terms of alcohol and drug addictions among my family members. And then there's issue of employment, from contracts to permanent and pensionable. All these are deviations that I did not necessarily intend to occur in my life journeys. But one thing that I want to explain is that I was always searching. I was always searching in terms of the academics that I actually acquired, but even more important, in terms of spirituality and religion. And we did hear that our capacity to manage stress is very much determined by how we have taken time to understand who we are spiritually as well as physically. Next slide. So, I come back to a key reason why we get stressed. Relationships. Somebody did mention that we are mothers, we have daughters, we have sons, we have friends. So our relationships play an important part In one, determining whether we become stressed or not, they could be a source of stress. And two, they can also be a resource to enable us manage stress. Next slide, please. This session was also a little bit about our life journey. And I did want to mention that the patient has a life journey. The doctor has a life journey. And the relationship between the patient and the doctor also have a life journey. And depending on how that is managed, you can either have your medical conditions sorted out, especially when we recognize that 95% of the diseases that we present with at the clinic is psychosomatic. That word was mentioned earlier on. In other words, it's about our thoughts, our emotions, our experiences manifesting themselves as diseases in our body. Yeah. All right. I also just want to mention that our life journey is about choices and consequences. It's also about resources, including time, goodwill, expertise. It's also about compassion and our ability to relate to others. And it's also about loss and pain. And as a doctor, we deal with a lot of pain. And some of that pain we can alleviate by giving you pills. But a significant amount of the pain that we see now is not sorted out by popping in pills. Last but not least, it's important to recognize that life is a mystery. And a lot of the things we go through, we do not understand, at least not quite yet. And it is important for us to be open, to be available, to allow the universe to reveal to us where our human species is evolving into. I think that's more or less it. And now we're open to discussion. Thank you for listening to me.
Do you have any questions here? Anybody?
I have a question to Dr. Angelina. You have a very interesting journey when you talked about religion. That you were a Catholic first and then a Protestant. I would really like to know about that.
Okay, so that's one question. Let's get a couple more so that we can all respond to it. I know we don't have a lot of time. Another question?
Actually, I have.
Yes.
So, I have two small questions. One is from Maggie about taking a breath when you're taking decisions and when you're in that moment of stress. You said maybe, this way. You said maybe if you take a breath and it calms things down and you can take a better decision. Now, this is something that I heard today and this is something that I will go and practice. But how do I make it a habit? That I do not forget in that moment of stress, I need to stop and take a breath.
Well, again, it comes down to choice. And can I answer sort of two questions at the same time here? Because I think at the end of the day, we need to realise that our body and our whole being, we're a physical, emotional, spiritual and mental being. And we need to realise that we are worthy of looking after ourselves in the best possible way. And so that breath, it becomes a habit the more you get into it. But that's what I'm saying, it only takes 30 seconds and you can get your heart into a coherent state, which lowers your, strengthens your immune system, lowers your blood pressure, all those things. I can give you more details about it. With the forgiveness thing, I really wanted to say two quotes. One from the Buddha: do not learn to react, learn to respond. And that also, as Gandhi says, be the change you want to see. We can't change anybody else, we can only change ourselves. We need to change our reactions, because the holding on to, not forgetting, forgiving's okay, but holding on and not forgetting is harming us. The other person probably doesn't even know we're even having these thoughts. So it's a cup of poison that we're drinking, we're not even affecting them half the time. Thank you.
Oops, they go on my face.
Mr. Kaarthikeyan,
I'm stressed out.
my takeaway from this is that what you said, that everybody makes mistakes. It's not that everyone makes mistakes, it's not the other person has made. We also make sometimes in our lives.
Yeah.
And that is my takeaway that, one can easily learn to forget also.
You're all human.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Just in response to that question about religion, I think all the panelists have really emphasized to us that we are more than our bodies, yes, that our bodies are extremely important, but so is our mind, so are our emotions, and so is the relationship between us and whoever we perceive as the source of our being. As I was growing up, I was brought up as a Catholic. I grew up to question some things around the rites in the Catholic Church. I was open enough to visit some Protestant churches. And even as I grew older, I felt the desire to understand about other people's perceptions of this being that in my setup I call God. So my capacity and desire to open myself to this part of my being, I have found that very helpful in me as a person, but also in me as a physician. As I interact with the people who come to me because they have a physical ailment, I do whatever I can to deal with that physical ailment scientifically. But I'm also aware that their spiritual and their spirituality is a resource that I could utilize to enable that healing. I don't know whether that has helped a little.
So I had another question, but I think I'll take it up later with Michele. I think we'll conclude the session now. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, I want to ask one question. Dr. Angelina, I just want to Isn't it important that we do not connect our faith with religion? Because I think religion, I somehow feel that religion divides, but it's the faith which unites. So instead of taking Catholic or Protestant as these words, why don't you just take your faith as I hope you got what I want to say. So just want to, if you can elaborate.
Thank you. That's such an important question. One of the things that my journey has taught me is that religion is probably about rites and practices, etc., while spirituality is how I relate to this source of my life. Yeah. And therefore, using those words, they can be a little bit alienating. Yeah. And as I grow older, I'm learning all the time. And now this is a learning point for me too, that maybe it is just better to utilize the overall meanings of this thing that we call our spirituality and not narrow it down to some of these ways of thinking. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for a lovely session, our speakers, ladies and sir. We had a lovely session. We had a room full of people and we had so many questions. You kept us engaged throughout. Thank you so much. Can you guys come for a picture, please?